So you are ready to take your arena to the next level and get those bosses and invasions down, right? Perfect. But you're probably wondering what kind of benefits and buffs are waiting for you and how do you even build it? Well, don't worry, I get you covered. In this quick and easy step-by-step guide, I will guide you through everything you need to know. Let's dive into it and get your arena ready to rumble. Of course, everyone has their own way of building in Terraria, and that's what makes it fun to explore the many different approaches. And with this tutorial, we will explore all the useful tips you need to boost your combat and help to build the perfect arena for your needs. With this tutorial, we are going to add every single passive buff you can possibly get into an arena, and apart from that, add utilities such as useful NPCs and many other things to make your life as comfortable as possible. The purpose of this tutorial is to teach basics and extended knowledge for the arena for you to understand how things work. You can also rebuild this one by one, no problem. If you don't have access to certain items yet, you can just add them later as you progress. However, the basic framework for this can be built right ahead. So without further ado, let's go. Let's start with the spacing of your platforms. When we go with a spacing of 10 blocks between all platforms, you are exactly on double jump range from Cloud in a Bottle, which makes a perfect spacing for the early game and has proven to be just as good even later on when you have wings or a flying mount. You can of course change the spacing when you feel like it. We start by making the ground flat and add the first row of platforms exactly 11 blocks above it and repeat the spacing for each. In this example we go with 5 rows in total with a length of 85 blocks. By this, the buffs we place in the center are used very efficiently. For an alternative, you could use planter boxes instead of platforms because it's easier to build straight lines without accidentally creating stairs. Now place walls at the end of the left side all the way up to the top and repeat it 5 times with a spacing of 20 in between. For the example here we go with stone slab walls you can get very early. This helps us to keep track of the arena size in combat. With this finished, we get into the core of the arena, and at the end of this video I will suggest some more tricks for decorations. It's about efficiency for now, getting in every single passive buff you can get in the game. We start with the basics, the buff stations. There's one for every single class and we place them on the first row of platforms, where you would just need to pass by and click on them to stack all of them. The ammo box, grab it from the traveling merchant anytime or from the arms dealer once you're in hard mode. It will reduce your ammo usage, which is super handy. As for melee players, look out for the sharpening stations underground in cabins. It adds armor penetration to your attacks. Next is the bewitching table. It's found in the dungeon and gives you an extra minion, perfect for summoner builds. In hard mode, the wizard sells you the crystal ball, which boosts your spell power. And finally, if you're tackling the Old One's army event, defeat the dark mage for the war table to summon an extra sentry. Last but not least, we add the cake, a bit separated from everything else. The cake gives us 20% movement and mining speed. Well, the mining speed is fairly useless in boss fights, but you surely won't miss out on the movement buff. Why we separate the cake? The buff will just last 2 minutes and may be refreshed in fight. To not click the wrong stations or get confused by other things, it's recommended to place it somewhere else. You could also just spam the cakes all around if you're really into cakes. And just like with everything else, you can add them one by one as you progress. Now the second layer is all about passive buffs, no clicking needed. Place a campfire to boost your healing and life regeneration. Craft a star in a bottle and a heart lantern with a bottle, fallen star and a life crystal with chains for extra life and mana regeneration. For an additional 5 defense, look for the base statue in underground desert chests or cabins. The middle section is also perfect for hanging banners once you have collected some. And talking about passive buffs, you don't want to miss out on the sunflower buff. However, the sunflower needs 2 solid grass blocks. This is why I like to place them at ground level or on the side of the arena if I want to extend upwards, so the dirt won't block our way when doing bosses or invasions. Time to talk about honey. Honey is great and gives even more life regeneration. I see a lot of examples with solid blocks filled with honey in the middle of the arena, but I would avoid using any solid blocks in the arena and instead use bubble blocks. Bubble blocks are able to keep all liquids while you can still pass it. Where you place it is up to you. If you don't like honey inside of the arena because it's slowing you down, you could also build a little honey pool at ground level and place platforms above it. Every time you pass it, you just need to tap down to get the buff. And there's absolutely no need to spam honey because getting in contact with just one liquid block provides the honey buff for 30 seconds. The next addition to our arena is the heart and star statues. A quick note here, spamming a lot of heart statues can make boss fights much easier to the point where it can break the game and make you overpowered. That's why I avoid using too much of them. However, if you are new to the game and want to learn boss patterns, it might be helpful. Personally, I allow myself 1 heart and 1 star statue in master mode, but feel free to adjust it to your liking. You will find them randomly underground. To activate them, connect them with wires to a timer, both of which you can purchase from the mechanic. Before we are going to address the NPCs and the ground level, we should take care about the light sources. For this, do as you please. However, I like to use white torches because they are better distinguishable from enemy and boss projectiles, so you won't get confused in the heat of the battle. Place them 1 block below the platforms on the walls and just repeat this pattern. And since we're already talking about light, let's add a water candle, which increases enemy spawns. This is good for grinding invasions. For decreasing enemy spawns, we use a peace candle, which is helpful during boss fights to reduce the chances of other minions disturbing you. You can either toggle them on and off manually or add a lever to each side and connect them with a wire. Now let's focus on the ground level. A key addition is using aswell blocks, which can be crafted in hard mode after defeating your first mechanical boss with stone blocks and slime gel. They offer the best speed boost in the game and are very cheap to make. Just replace the bottom of your arena and you're good to go. And with this being done, it's now time for the heart and soul of this arena, featuring the best passive buff in the game. To achieve this, it's time to bring the Dryad and other NPCs into the arena. We start with the Merchant for quick item selling, the Nurse for fast healing, and the Dryad for the best passive buff available. Let's start with the NPC box, which will be 13 blocks high and 12 blocks wide. Cover the space with walls and create 3 segments, placing a chair and a workbench at the highest possible spot of each. This ensures the NPCs stay on the teleporter, which are placed at the bottom of the box. Place 2 platforms on the top left, exactly 1 block below the bricks, and 1 platform 2 blocks below it to place a workbench and a chair on it. I like to add some trapdoors at the top so you can still reach the NPCs outside of the arena if you need something from them. And make sure to add light sources. Grab some wires and lay them all the way to the arena. As a side note, the NPC box can be placed anywhere on the map. Just make sure to place it a few hundred blocks away from your arena for them being safe. At the arena, dig out a small room just big enough for the NPC. Place a teleporter at the bottom and close the room again. Once you have connected the teleporter to a lever, you can now summon a merchant whenever you need to sell items from invasions, without the need to head back to base. I also recommend adding chest here to store your loot from invasions. Now let's move on to the Dryad. We will repeat the process, but we need to ensure she's consistently casting the Dryad's Blessing. To do this, add a second room next to hers and place a zombie statue connected to a 1 or 3 second timer. It's important to have a 2 block high space between the zombies and the Dryad. Why? In order to cast her blessing, she needs to see enemies. Just having enemies nearby isn't enough. 1 block of space wouldn't be sufficient, and with 3 blocks the zombies might kill the Dryad. You have options now for how to bring the Dryad into the arena. One method is using a lever, which is recommended for bosses like the Destroyer or the Eater of Worlds, as they otherwise might kill her. For most other bosses or invasions, I recommend a 5-second timer. This is just enough time for her to start casting before she's teleported back to safety. The good news is that once she's starting casting, she doesn't need to stay there and the buff will remain active. Last but not least, let's get the nurse into the arena. The process is the same as with the merchant. Build a small room, add a teleporter and connect it to a lever. Another way to summon her is by using a blue pressure plate that activates when the player walks on it. In the heat of the battle, this can be a faster option, but be aware that enemies may knock you back onto the pressure plate, causing her to teleport away before you can heal. The arena is now functional and has everything needed to make our lives much more comfortable. Of course, every step here is just a suggestion and you can adjust the different elements however it fits your own playstyle. Before I get into decorations, I want to mention something optional. Solid blocks in the arena. Solid blocks in the arena could potentially block certain projectiles such as Martian UFOs or the lasers from the Destroyer of Worlds. You can incorporate these into your arena if you like to. However, personally I prefer the arena space without solid blocks. They don't just block enemy projectiles, they can also block yours and may hinder your movement and dodging. With that being said, let's get into some decoration tricks. I won't dive too deep into it and will separate decorative building tutorials from functional building tutorials, but it's never a bad idea to add some eye candy. One simple thing you can do is add 3 more walls on the sides where walls and platforms intersect, followed by 2 walls below and then 1 more below that. You can do this for every intersection, then surround it with other walls. In this example, red brick walls. On the surface level, I like to add fences in between to make it look like a foundation. Now if you want to add more shape, you could potentially surround the walls with solid bricks like this. Hammer them, push them into the background with an actuator and then repeat the process. It's a little bit of effort, but also completely optional. And by that, we have reached the end of this tutorial. I hope you could take something from it and enjoyed watching. If you want to help my channel, you could subscribe, like and comment on this video. Until then, thanks for watching and stay healthy.